Final hour overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, the O-Dogs off to do Sports Center stuff and playoff preview stuff.
All that fun stuff, yep.
Big panel tonight, right? JD will be over there. We saw MJ earlier in the hour.
Yep, it's the preview show.
Preview show, I love it. 8 series, anything's possible.
Yep.
Anything's possible. And we've talked a lot about the Leafs and the Bruins, and we'll continue to get into that. Joe Haggerty will join us here in a moment from Boston and slide in maybe a few Dear Hayesy-Bs later in the hour, our best bets.
Nice.
But as for the other Canadian series, I think Winnipeg is in the toughest, yet they all have home ice, which is interesting. Like
right.
Winnipeg at home against Colorado, Edmonton at home against LA, Vancouver at home against Nashville. Been 30 years. Our friends at Boston Pizza are doing a great job of pointing that out. That
yes.
Collectively, we're all coming together here. Let's try to get something going. And obviously, you have the team that you're rooting for, and no one is going to root against their own team. But the fact is, it would be great for the country, great for the sports scene, if all 4 could get through to the second round. If you had a second round featuring 4 Canadian teams, that would just be incredible.
Now all of a sudden you've got a 50% chance.
At a coin flip, someone's going to be standing at the end.
Yeah.
And I think especially in the West, if you get all 3 into the second round, you're guaranteed one in the conference final.
Right.
And I would not be surprised at all. Like the way Winnipeg's playing, I pick Colorado, but it's a coin flip for me. If Winnipeg proves that they can beat Colorado, then they can definitely beat Dallas or Vegas.
Right.
Like I feel very good, one of Vancouver or Edmonton coming out of the Pacific. Very good. I think both teams are better than Nashville and LA collectively. So I feel very good that one of those teams is standing. I think it will be Edmonton. But Winnipeg, tougher road. But a Winnipeg-Edmonton conference final is not out of the realm of possibility.
No.
And Hellebuck is the guy that will really be able to hammer that home.
For sure. I mean, there's an argument for every team and a reasoning and a pathway to go, if this happens, and this happens, you can see that team in the final or see that team, go deep into the playoffs. Every one of these cup contending teams that we're talking about, they have their own unique, I guess, set of skills, right? Like I don't know if all of them are complete teams, but they're, you look at Winnipeg, it's like, okay, I think I did their game. There was 14 guys with 10 plus goals, double-digit goals. So that's balanced scoring. You've got a D that is solid. You got a structure that is solid from Rick Bowness, and you got a Vezina-winning, Hart-nominated type of goaltender. That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
That's their formula. That's not Edmonton's formula.
Mm-hmm.
You've got McDavid and Draisaitl. I think they've got a lot more depth this year, some pedigree. You add Perry, you get guys like Adam Henrique, who's a veteran guy. I think their D took a step. You got Ekholm last year, helped settle everything down.
Had a great year too.
Great year, and Skinner's your guy, which you committed to him early in the season, and sink or swim with him. That's their formula. Everyone's got their formula, but you got to see which one works.
Yeah, and there's different tiers, right? I do think there's a lot of parity. I don't see one team that stands out above the rest in the East or the West.
Right.
But in the East, I think the Rangers, the Panthers, and Carolina, I would have them as my 3. Like if I was doing power rankings, who do I think is the 3 best teams are best suited for playoff hockey and to go on a run? I would say Rangers, Panthers,
right,
and Carolina. And then the next tier would be Boston, Toronto, Tampa in some capacity. Right. And out West, it's probably similar to that. I would probably look at Dallas, Edmonton,
Colorado.
Probably Colorado, probably. And then any combination of Vegas, Winnipeg, Vancouver as the next tier.
Right.
Those are the top 6 in the East for me, top 6 in the West. And if you're in that second tier, that means you're close. Right. Like that means you don't need everything to break your way. You need to play your best game. You need to stay healthy.
Right.
You probably need to catch a break here or there in terms of what is happening with the opponent.
Agreed.
Right? The other team's goalie gets hurt. The other team's star player gets hurt. The other team bloodbath in the first round, and they don't have it in them. Like that's what happens every year. Things have got to break your way.
Well,
but all 4 Canadian
apart,
teams.
You name it. Like there's just so many things that will come into factor. Injuries, inconsistencies, It'll be a bad call. I know officiating will always be on blast.
It always does.
Right?
It always does. That's something that we haven't even talked about, but the officials, sometimes they're whistle happy early in the playoffs. I think that's generally a directive from the league.
Right.
Set a tone early in the series. If they're, take one guy after a scrum or be really careful to call everything. Make sure everyone knows this is how it's going to be played.
Right.
I personally would prefer to avoid that. I'm old school when it comes to not letting them play to the point where it's stupid.
Just managing the game.
But manage the game, exactly.
Yeah.
I want an official where you're not even a part of the conversation after. And sometimes that can happen, and there's still each team has 3 or 4 power plays.
Oh yeah,
because they're justified. It's a hit from behind. You got to call it.
Yeah.
Blatant trip on a 2-on-1. Got to call it.
Yeah.
But I don't need ticky-tack stuff. And scrums in particular is what drives me nuts. If both teams are engaged, stay the hell out of it.
Right.
Tell them when to stop and break it up.
Right.
And if it gets stupid and someone swings a stick or someone suckers someone, then they go to the box.
Right.
But if it's a scrum early in a game, let them get it out of them. Don't run in and say, I'm taking one. Just let it happen. Let the emotions start to pile up because that's a part of the playoffs that makes it so great.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's going to be, on different nights, you're going to go, okay, would have liked to see that one go a little bit farther or whatever, but I just don't want there to be polarizing calls where you're like, okay, that was, and you know what's going to be. Goalie interference is going to come. Like the black and white ones, those are easy. Offside, over the glass. But there is going to be, a pick here, a hook there, the ticky-tacky ones that are going to be challenged. And, I'm not challenged, but you know what I mean. Like
people are going to have
fans. Yeah, people are going to be pissed about it. So I think, this is exciting. It's 2 weeks of just all hell breaking loose.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. Okay, let's get to some props here. We're trying to catch up with Joe Haggerty, maybe some Dear Hayesy-Bs later in the hour.
Sure.
Our best bet's brought to you by FanDuel. The most likely series to go 7 games in the first round is?
Oof. I want to say Toronto, Boston, but I think it's Winnipeg, Colorado.
Yeah.
Those teams are both just rock star teams. So I think they're both getting games. So I'm going to say Winnipeg, Colorado.
Yeah, I think it's either them or the Leafs or Bruins. I'll say Leafs Bruins because of their history. There's a lot of history there. I'm not even talking about 13, but in 18 and 19, the Leafs, their history outside of that Florida series naturally, but in the first round, they don't have a tough time early in the series showing up and winning games.
Right.
Right? Like the Florida series was an outlier, them kind of getting pushed around a little bit and chasing a series down 3-0 and then losing in 5.
Right.
Where in previous years, even that first year they made it in the Matthews era against Washington, they were up 2-1 in that series after 3 games. They lost in 6. After they went up 2-1, they didn't win again. But they won games early. In 18-19, it went 7. In 20, it went 5, I guess, with Columbus. Against Montreal, it went 7. Against Tampa, it went 7 the first year. Last year, it went 6. They show up generally early in the series. So I think the Leafs will do that, and I think the Bruins will as well. I expect to split out of Boston. I expect it to go back to Boston for Game 5, tied 2-2.
Yeah.
That would be my guess.
And then a best of 3 after that.
And then, so I would lean Boston, Tampa, but I could see Winnipeg and Colorado as well. I think Dallas, I think Florida. We've talked about this throughout the afternoon. I think Edmonton, I think they get it done before it gets to 7, personally. But I know people are bullish on Tampa. They're bullish on Vegas because of their history.
Yeah.
I kind of like the way the home team's set up, and they're a little bit hungrier.
Yeah.
But, okay, the non-goalie, because I think we could all concede the 16 players with the most pressure on them starting tomorrow night, 16 goalies.
Yeah.
Non-goalie player with the most pressure to perform in the first round is who?
That's an interesting one. I'd like to say it's somebody off of Boston because they lost last year in the first round and pissed it away. But I have to go back and take a look as to who kind of melted. Did Pasternak kind of get
I don't think
quiet?
he melted necessarily, but Pasta's the guy that I would lean on. I would say it would be Pasta if we're talking the Bruins, because Marchand's got his ring already.
Right.
Not that he doesn't have pressure to perform, but that's Pasternak's team.
Right.
Like, I think in that series, even though I have said, leading into this, I think there's a lot of pressure on Marner. That's a big picture conversation because of his contract.
Well, and it's a local one too. Like I'm trying to look at you just said the whole all 16.
Yes.
I'm trying to like
I think
I could
McDavid,
easily-
but I think they're going to win even if he's just okay. I think they beat LA.
Yeah, I could easily just say I could have just gone Mitch Marner, but I'm trying to look at the whole spectrum of. You're right. Like I think McDavid. I think there's pressure, and he put it on himself at the start of the year, saying like we're here early, we want to get it done. But yeah, I'll say McDavid.
Yeah.
I think somebody out of Boston too. I think Pasternak has to because of how things unfolded for them last year. But I'll say McDavid. I think that's very
I think it comes down to the tougher matchups, right? Like I think you look at the Rangers, Panarin's got to carry it over. He's the man in New York.
Yeah.
But I think they beat Washington, even if he's just okay. Again, I think the same thing in Edmonton. Like McDavid's not going to play poorly. He's going to get his. He's going to do his thing. But I think he'll elevate as the series goes on. I think even if you just get a good performance out of him, I think they'll beat LA. So I think the pressure comes down to the teams that are in tough that maybe haven't won before. So that takes Vegas out a little bit. It takes Colorado out. They won 2 years ago. It takes Tampa out. They've won 2 cups.
Right.
So for me, it's some combination of Tkachuk, Barkov. Like I think Matthew Tkachuk's got to be great. Again, because Kucherov's going to show up, and Point's going to show up, and Vasilevsky's a stud. Hedman's going to be on him.
Stamkos, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys went to the Cup final last year. That's great, but they have Cup aspirations down there in Florida. They're a big believer in that, and he was the guy who drove them home last year. Like he was unbelievable in the playoffs.
Yeah,
and he said a good year.
Sternum.
But he had a broken sternum by the Cup final. He did.
Yeah.
But I would look at more towards a guy like Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Toronto hasn't won, so Matthews. I think Matthews has got to be great. I know that's a local thing, and we keep hammering that, but I really do. I think he's got to be great. And I look at Dallas, some combination of Hintz, Robertson, like they're top dogs who fly under the radar and the rest.
Yeah.
But you're a number 1 seed in the West, and you got the Cup champs rolling in. You better be ready to play.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think Dallas just does it by committee, so you don't pull one person out of there. Like I could look at Winnipeg and go Scheifele. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see Scheifele.
Well, and he was a part of it last year, right? They got rid of Wheeler, they got rid of Dubois, but he's the guy that's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
He's the face of that organization. Even though Lowry's the captain and Morrissey's been great again this year, and that's Hellebuck's team.
Right.
The guy who has been the longest standing kind of marquee guy there is Mark Scheifele.
Yeah.
And if he's matching up with McKinnon on the other side, that's a massive, massive challenge.
Yeah. So
Massive
there's a
challenge.
5-pack of guys that really need that. You know?
Yep. This is more of a prop.
Okay.
Of the 16 coaches in the playoffs, how many will still be coaching the respective teams by the start of next season's playoffs? You don't have to name names, but give me a number. 14, 15, 16, 13?
No. I'm going to say 14.
So at least 2 are gone.
I think there
by
will
this
be
time
2
next year.
turnover.
I agree. I think it's more than that.
Really?
I do, just based on the nature. I think there's a chance what happened in the first round, 1 or 2 of these guys could be gone by 2 weeks from now.
Based on expectations.
Just, hey, you've been there for a while, it didn't work out, or you took a big swing at something.
Right.
Or someone else has become available and we're going to upgrade. It may not be right after they lose, they get fired, but by the summer, the nature of the coaching position it's crazy right now in the NHL. Like and there are other coaches available, and maybe Rod Brindamore doesn't get a contract and decides I'm leaving Carolina.
Right.
That guy becomes available. There's going to be teams turning over stones and rocks to try to get him. And then you get into the season. You made the playoffs last year. If you start poorly, guys get fired all the time in this league. I'm going to say, it's going to sound crazy, I'm going to say 12.
What?
I'm going to say 4 coaches that made it this year will be gone by the beginning of next season, by the next playoffs starting next year.
Oh, by the next playoffs.
That's
okay.
not over the offseason. By a year today, how many of the 16 are still standing behind the bench? I'll say 12. I'll say 25% of them will be turned out.
That's fair. Like
I think that is fair. I think it's
thinking
crazy, but I think because you're in the moment thinking, wow, this is amazing. You guys all made the playoffs.
Yeah.
But crazy stuff happens
We've
in the
seen
NHL.
so much turnover too. You're right. I'm not going to be 14 out of 16. I'll be 13. So I'm going to
Okay.
go one above you.
All right.
One above.
Okay. Best duo in the first round. Let me give you some examples. McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon, McCarr, Kucherov, Point, Kachuk, Barkov, Matthews, Marner, Panarin, Fox, Hughes, Pettersson, Pasternak, Marchand, Stone, Eichel. You go off the board too. If you could pick 1 2-pack to be on your team to start game 1, who would you take?
I'll take McDavid, Draisaitl.
I
Take the best player
Yeah.
and the guy who had 13 goals on one ankle.
That's the thing. Draisaitl's playoff performances are out of this
He
world.
plays every night like it's a playoff game physically. Not sometimes his effort, he mails in, all of that type of stuff. Defensively, he'll reach on plays and all. But the guy actually, he doesn't need to be conditioned for playoff hockey because he invites contact. So he's actually better with contact.
Yes.
So I don't think he changes his game. And McDavid is McDavid. So that's the 2-pack for me that I choose if I'm the first choice.
Yeah, I'll go off. That seems like that's a very reasonable, good choice. That's probably the consensus number 1. I'll say McKinnon and McCarr, though, because they've won.
Yeah.
They've done it, and it's 2 different positions. Like McDavid and Draisaitl will play together, obviously power play together. They will sneak in a lot of 5-on-5 shifts. But like McCarr is going to play 30 minutes a night starting game 1. And McKinnon, it's still McDavid number 1. That hasn't changed this year. I think it's McKinnon number 2. And then for me, it's Matthews, Draisaitl. Like those are the top 4. Those are the 4 best centers in the world.
Yeah.
But even though Hughes has been great this year, and he deserves to win the Norris, I think coming into this, I expect big things out of Quinn Hughes. Right. I think he can be the best defenseman in the playoffs. I do. But McCarr, for me, if I'm starting a team today, I'm still taking McCarr over anybody else.
Right.
He's the best defenseman in the game. This year,
Hughes has had a better season.
He's had a better
doesn't
year.
mean that, I don't think McDavid's winning the heart, but we all think McDavid's the best player.
McDavid's still the best player.
So, that's the beauty of it. But you're right. I don't think that's a bad answer, McKinnon and McCarr. Plus, we've seen it.
They've won it. It just changes everything.
When you have a sample size and point to and go, you see that?
Yeah.
Then you're like, okay, you can't challenge that.
Well, remember McCarr in that cup run? The numbers he was putting up?
It's gross. But the numbers he's putting up in his career alone.
Bobby Orr. He's tracking with Bobby Orr.
It's just him and Bobby Orr type of numbers. That's what it is. Over games played and points per game, all of that type of stuff. He's that good. And you're right. That's what's amazing for Quinn Hughes. He's had a better season.
Yeah, he has. He should probably win the Norris. I don't know if he'll win it unanimously, and maybe he doesn't deserve to. Yossi's been great.
Yeah.
McCarr's still been great. Hedman's been really good.
Fox
has been good.
You're getting. There's been a lot of really good performances this year.
But
Quinn Hughes has been, for me, the clear-cut guy.
Clear-cut, he's winning the Norris. Hellebuck, I think Hellebuck should win that unanimously.
I think he will too, but, again, there's always... I
struggle.
Nedeljkovic
will get votes.
Well, there's there will be somebody who overthinks it and then will have his own set of numbers that he comes in and listen, they post whoever makes the picks. Picks had to be in by 5:00 today.
Oh, so that became official.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's for everybody. Well, I'm
everybody who voted had to be in by today by 5 p.m. Eastern. So people have made their votes for Coach of the Year and for all the
Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year.
You think Bedard will win that?
I do.
Faber really had a great year, but
I think Bedard played enough games.
He played 68.
I think he just got under 70. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's enough games.
And he ended
enough
up with
sample
60,
size. Yeah.
whatever, 3
There's
points.
enough sample size there.
Historically, that makes more sense. You want him to win Rookie of the Year. I know that's not how you're supposed to vote. I get it. But you want to look back on his career and say, of course, he got Rookie of the Year.
Now, McDavid got hurt. It was
He didn't win
Panarin.
it.
Who won it? Was it Panarin?
I believe it was Panarin. I think so.
Yeah. Now, McDavid only played half the games that year. Bedard missed 6 weeks, 7, 8 weeks. But he got enough games for me to be Rookie of the Year.
Yeah. And it hasn't been a great rookie class.
Yeah.
There's been good rookies, but no one that's been out like that. Panarin had 75 points or something as a rookie.
Yeah, I
paired up with Kane and was unreal.
I think there's been some good rookie performances, but it hasn't been. You're right, somebody who got 50 goals, and you're like that's the guy. And
yeah,
but I Bedard. There was Faber. Logan Cooley had a great season.
Yep.
Luke Evangelista. I love him. Local kid.
Yeah, that's your
played
guy.
in Nashville. You know the one that fell in under kind of, I wouldn't say a technicality, but Peter Kochetkov, the goaltender for Carolina.
Carolina had a good
played
year.
24 games last year, so he actually is a rookie this season. So he's judged as an NHL rookie this year. So he
could pick up some votes.
Well, he was at least on my all rookie team,
right.
Because you had him, you had Joel Hofer, you had a few good young rookie goaltenders. Maybe Joseph Wall would have been there had he not get injured and played. The way he was trending.
It was starting, man. I remember having that conversation 15 games in. I'm like, this guy's got a .917 save percentage. He's saving the Leafs.
Yeah.
Samsonov's a mess. This guy's the starter on what's going to be a playoff team. That's the kind of narrative you pick up. If he stayed healthy and was the man going into tomorrow night, because that's where it was going. Like Joseph Wall was going to be the guy.
Yeah.
And now everything flipped because of that injury.
Yeah. Last one was Luke Hughes, New Jersey.
Yes, that's a rat. He's like
awesome.
top 3, I think. Luke
He's been
Hughes.
awesome. Yeah, he's
been really good.
Yeah.
Thanks again to Boston Pizza for sending everything in. Boston Pizza's playoff menu is here, and it's full of old Hall of Famers plus some great new appies and pizza. It's been 30 years without the Cup in Canada, so we need fans to cheer for every Canadian team, even if it stings. The BP Sports Bar is the best place to watch the game if you cannot be at the game. So come on in and try our new playoff menu, and don't miss a minute of the games as we all support Canada. Okay, we're trying to catch up with Joe Haggerty. Dear Hayesy-B still to come. Best Bet still to come. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Nail It In Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoffs we need to cheer like we've never cheered before. With the fans, we've always cheered against. The Cup needs to come home, and you need to catch all the action at your local BP Sports Bar. Okay, Joe Haggerty may or may not be joining us here. We have some Dear Hayesy-Bs. I'm always uncomfortable doing Dear Hayesy-B because generally O has to run the show here. That's why when we somehow miss it, if he's off
read
on
through
Friday
a couple. If you want to read through a couple, we can try.
Okay.
But maybe select the few that.
Yeah, I got a few here that I think we can probably help with.
Okay.
Okay, it's from JP from Mississauga. Dear Hayesy-B, I've always been a get-together with the boys guy for Leafs playoff games, but I want to change it up this year. I just want to be locked in on my couch and try and change the mojo after years of disappointment. Naturally, my buddies are all over me. How do I handle this? That's an interesting one because everyone's got different ways of watching big games. I personally, if I'm at the game, then I'm at the game.
Right.
But if not, like a road game, I will be at home tomorrow night. I'm not at the neighbor's place. I'm not getting together with friends.
Right.
I want to watch. I want to be intently involved. I want to know what's happening. Large part because of what we do for a living. We kind of can't miss details. But also just the experience of it. I just want to be locked in. I don't want to be distracted.
Right.
Sounds like JP's saying I'd probably prefer that, but maybe he's out with his buddies every year and it's kind of a gong show. People are talking. It's like watching the Super Bowl with people that don't love football.
If I'm him, switch it up. You can do it for one game. Do it for tomorrow night and go see how it goes.
Saturday night's a big one. Game 1 Saturday night.
I know, but
guys are going to be flooring it tomorrow.
Yeah, but if you don't like the outcome, then you don't have to be pissed off in a bar or pissed off. Or if you are if you do like the outcome, then you go meet them.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock, 11:30.
Well, like I don't get the Monday night meetup. You know, like if you're an adult and you got kids and a career and stuff,
it's
get
not
together
Monday
for
night.
game 2.
Yeah.
This is the conundrum that you have is tomorrow's the night. So later starts, you know, even in
patio,
my
5 o'clock.
Exactly. It's maybe you get around in during the day, everyone head home, shower, eat dinner, let's meet by 7:30.
Yeah, I get
it's
that.
like tomorrow, I would suggest tomorrow you get together with the crew. Tomorrow's the night. It's game 1, even if the Leafs lose and you have nervous energy. It's one game. Psychologically, you say, all you got to do is get 2. Game 2, you come back with a split. Everything's all good. Right. Game 1 is an easing in process in the playoffs.
Yep.
It is like the energy from a viewing experience watching game 1 compared to game 7 is night and day.
Right.
Right? Like if you're a super fan, if you're a diehard, obviously game 1s are still really important. And if the Leafs could do themselves a favor or any of these teams, any of the 16 teams and win game 1, you're breathing so much easier as a fan.
Right.
Getting game one is so huge because it pushes the series at a minimum, guarantees a split. Everything gets broken up into two sets of, games anyway, right? If you're the road team, the home team, you got to get a split to feel good about where you're at. You don't want to go down 2-0. But Saturday night, game one, there's a game, what is it, Florida, Tampa, that's at 5 o'clock tomorrow night?
Yeah, there's a 5 o'clocker.
Like, have that on, maybe try to get with the boys for the third period of that. Florida tomorrow with an understanding Monday, you're not getting together. Wednesday, not getting together.
Yeah, you could change it.
The beauty of this Leaf series is that game 1, game 4, and game 7 are all on Saturday nights.
Yeah.
That sets up beautifully for now. If it gets to 7 and you're a nervous wreck and you don't want to be with anyone, then you don't go out.
Yeah.
It's very simple. But game 1, you can probably pull off. Game 4, you can pull off. Everything else, you just be at home. Yeah. I think that's a happy medium.
I agree. That's great advice.
All right. Dear Hayesy-B, this is from son-in-law of a Bruins fan.
Okay.
My father-in-law is a diehard Bruins fan, and he drives me nuts whenever they play the Leafs. So needless to say, the next 2 weeks will be painful. He texts me 25 times a day and will FaceTime me right after every game. Can I block his number until after the first round, or will that cause me serious problems long term?
No, I don't know. Have you ever had that process? I don't.
I haven't.
I don't like get that engaged in the day-to-day stuff. But I think this is part of the process. Isn't part of being a fan like enjoying? What if your team wins?
Well, this is such a typical Leaf fan mentality with the Leafs and the Bruins.
Right.
I can speak for Leaf fans. They are terrified of losing to the Bruins again. Not losing in the first round. Leaf fans are used to that. It's happened, right? Like that's the way it goes. Losing to the Habs was particularly tough.
Right.
But as I said to start the week, there are very few Florida Panther fans. There actually happens to be a woman that works here who sent me an email and said, come up to my office. I'm a diehard Panther fan.
Really?
And I appreciate that greatly.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to do that because I'm like, I have to see that to believe it. She said, come on up.
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm a Panther fan, so don't talk smack about Panther fans in Toronto. That's amazing.
That's fun.
But every Leaf fan has got a friend or a family member or a colleague that's a diehard Bruin fan. You can't avoid them. It's just like the Habs. Habs and Bruins, to a lesser extent Ottawa, just because they don't have the same history. They've only been around for 30-something years.
Yeah.
If you're younger, you probably would. But, if you're 40 or over, it's generally Habs, Bruins, Leafs, Western Canadian teams where you're not going to meet them in the first round anyway. So it doesn't matter if your Oilers buddy or Flames friend texts you.
Yeah.
What is terrifying for Leaf fans is not just losing, but losing to the Bruins. And that's what this guy's saying.
Yeah.
Is that he obviously, I'm sure he was with this woman in 18 and 19, and the father-in-law was all over him.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't want to deal with that because he's going in thinking, we're going to lose. The Leafs are going to lose this, and I'm going to have to chew on this again. But blocking the number,
that's a bit aggressive.
Father-in-law, what if your wife kind of hates on that material? I think you flush. I don't think you block. You're selective and you flush, and you let them know early and often, I'm not getting back to everything, and I'm going to flush a FaceTime if the Leafs lose. Yeah. That's the move. You flush a FaceTime. Yeah. And if they win and he doesn't get to you in time, you be proactive and you send the FaceTime.
You call him.
Start FaceTiming him.
Yeah, I think you can flush. You have the luxury of flushing. You don't have to take that call.
You don't have to.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of technology.
That's the way I see
did that to O and Luke Wilson every single game all year. They would
until you won.
Until I won, and then eventually I would FaceTime them. But O would FaceTime the three of us, a collective team FaceTime, when my pick was going south, their pick was going well.
Yeah.
Remarkably obnoxious.
Yeah.
But that's just what came out of it. All right, Dear Hayesy-B. All right, what do we got here? Need some help about tomorrow night. We've had a massive friends dinner party planned downtown for months to celebrate a bunch of birthdays. Some of the ladies have made it clear that there will be no TVs allowed and we're screwed for game one. Pulling the chute is not an option because my wife happens to be one of the birthdays we're celebrating, and I think that's it, and has already laid down the hammer on that idea not happening. What can I do? How do we get around this?
Well, you got to negotiate. Say it. There's got to be one TV there. You're not going to enjoy yourself. Everyone's going to be miserable. There's got to be a middle ground here.
Yes. Game on mute, maybe around the corner for some pop-ins.
Right.
Can you do that?
Yeah. Or else people are just going to go, I'm going to go to the bathroom and go into the bar and watch it anyways. And
Right.
come back 20 minutes later when something's happening on the screen and you forgot to go back.
See, that's the counter is we can either all be walking and leaving all the time or someone's going to be live streaming the game. Just get it on so it's on.
Right.
And then if you do that, though, you got to focus on the conversations. I understand this. You got a big dinner. This is what is terrifying for sports fans about booking in advance. Because you had no idea when the Leafs series was going to start. And it was probably, hey, first Saturday or second Saturday in April, everyone's coming together. We haven't seen people since Christmas.
Yeah.
Let's all get together. All right, lock it in. And then sure enough, the schedule comes out, Leafs Bruins, game 1.
Yeah.
But I think the happy medium is game somewhere around the table on mute, but it's on everyone to commit that you're not just going to be staring at the screen. You can't do that.
Right.
You got to be sensible here. It's the first game of the series. There's a big power play. Check it out. If it's in the third and it's tied, if you're still down there and it's overtime, clearly you're going to be watching. Right. First period, couple of shifts.
Keep an eye on things.
Keep an eye, but let it go.
Yeah, exactly. There's a middle ground there.
Middle ground.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Couple of Dear Hayesy-Bs. The big news at the skate today in Boston is that William Nylander was not on the ice. And Sheldon Keefe came out afterwards and said he's a possibility for tomorrow night.
I think that's
you think that's just coach speak, playoff gamesmanship?
I think it's gamesmanship. I think he's under the weather, but you don't want to say he's under the weather because then you know he's not at 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Like you just say he's a possibility.
Yeah.
Just like Bobby McMahon's Matt Murray's a possibility tomorrow.
I like that. Yeah, and Keefe did say that Tree Living basically has said there will be no detailed, not daily updates. Okay, everyone knows that anyway.
That's him saying, "Don't come look at me." Like, and Tree probably said, like, you can blame it on me. Mm-hmm. We're not doing anything here. You coach the way you want to, but we're not letting out any state secrets here. So if Willie's under the weather, fine, takes a day off. We'll see you tomorrow. Like but you don't need to go, yeah, he's not feeling well today. We'll see how he is tomorrow.
Right.
You don't need anything.
You'll find out. He probably won't take the game day skate. He might. I mean, I guess anything's possible.
We'll see if he's there tomorrow night.
But at 7:30 tomorrow night for the pregame, 8 p.m. start's a different start time, too. That's just a little bit closer to prime time.
Well,
and it gives, I guess, Willie an extra hour, like if he's not feeling great or whatever. But if he's just not feeling, and these are purely our speculations, we don't know what it is. I find it impossible to believe he was fighting through injury the last 2 games and kept playing.
Yeah.
Like that to me, as I said at 4 o'clock, if that happened, that's like a fireable offense.
Yeah.
You cannot have a player of his caliber right before the playoffs play through something in meaningless games.
No, I just
there's
think
just no chance.
I think if there's anything, you woke up, if it's anything physical, you woke up with a stiff neck, a sore back, or muscular, where it's like, okay, give him a day off and see how it feels tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But they know what the problem is. The problem is we don't
know what it is.
So can't speculate.
As for Bobby McMahon, it seems very far-fetched he'll play tomorrow, which I feel for him. Anything's possible. We'll find out come tomorrow. But that's a guy that doesn't have Stanley Cup history. I mean, he's got none of it whatsoever, yet he feels like an unsung playoff hero, like the way he's been playing. He's been scoring goals, plays pretty aggressively, gets in on a forecheck, gritty areas. Like, I don't think he'd be uncomfortable in this series, but I'm not sure he'll be available. And, O made the point earlier that obviously you lose players, that's significant. It makes you a lesser team, but it can't completely dictate the mission. I mean, someone else has got to step up.
That's what it is.
You can't take one or two guys out and just say, oh, we're done. We can't win now.
No, but that's why teams have extra players. That's why you have depth. That's why you trade for guys at the deadline. Yeah. You don't trade for them, wanting them to get hurt. You expect that in the playoffs or down the stretch, there are guys nicked up. You need depth. Mm-hmm. That's what they're having to dip into right now.
Well, and on the back end, Brodie, it looks like he'll be out. Giordano, Brodie, and Timmins are coming out. So that's 3 guys who are capable of playing. Yep. They may not get in, but if there are injuries or poor play, they will. And, again, you look at the defense core, and it's not perfect. It would be closer to 16th than it would be first in terms of the 16 D cores left. But last year they had Giordano and Hall as a pairing that got torched.
Right.
You look at that, it's Riley, Labushkin, Benoit, McCabe, Edmondson, Liljegren. That's what they're going with tomorrow night.
I think it'll change at some point. I think Brodie does. He'll be the first guy in.
Yes,
Brodie.
I would have to believe it'll be TJ
It'll
Brodie.
just depend on either inconsistency or an injury.
Yeah. And I think the most likely player that would come out if he's getting pushed out would be Liljegren. Yet, the conversation we had last hour about puck moving, if you give him space, he can move the puck. Like, he is a good puck-moving defenseman.
Yeah.
There is some consistency, left shot, right shot. Obviously, Benoit and McCabe are both left shot, but McCabe's been pretty comfortable on the right side. But Lyubushkin shoots right, Liljegren shoots right. Liljegren will be, the second power play unit. The power play's got to get hot for them. Like, it's got to be something that you look back at the end of the series for the Leafs and say, we outperformed them.
Yeah.
In special teams in general.
Well, it is. Because 5-on-5, the game is going to be tight. Every piece of ice is going to be contested. So what are you going to do? If you get 3 power plays in a game, you gotta get one. Mm-hmm. Like, you gotta have a difference maker. Your specialty teams or your special teams.
Yeah.
And same thing. Penalty kill. You need it. You need your goalie to be your best penalty killer. You need your penalty kill to win you a game, or at least keep it tied at a critical time.
There's going to be a power play with 5 minutes to go in the third at some point in this series.
Yeah.
Can you kill it or not?
Exactly.
Jays are in San Diego starting a series tonight. Keegan Matheson tweeting out, I guess, down in AAA, Alek Manoah is getting a start.
How's he doing there? Then been down there. I haven't even paid attention.
Well, according to Keegan, live tweeting, Alek Manoah just allowed a single, a double, and a home run in the first inning. 2 earned runs on 28 pitches.
Remember he had that one adjective. He's like loud double.
Yes, that was his only start in the spring. That was his first start, like 2 or 3 days into Grapefruit League. Yeah. He got rocked, and then his shoulder flared up, and he took himself out of the running. And now he's had a start, like a simulated start where he got hit. He had a start down in Dunedin. I think this is his second in Buffalo. And Keegan follows that tweet up by saying the Blue Jays are starting to value actual results more at this point in Manoah's rehab, not just his pitch count and raw stuff, which is important here because you've heard after his starts, I feel good. Hey, the velocity's up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, man.
Now they're going like,
if you're getting hit and crushed by AAA guys, they can never allow you to pitch in the big leagues.
Agreed.
And I feel for this guy, but there just has not been a positive story of Alek Manoah's in over a year now. Like, there was no positives. It's been a calendar year of negative, and to the point where this guy, you cannot allow him anywhere close to a big league rotation, let alone a bullpen guy. You can't have an arm like that's that volatile and that off the rails, come in a high-leverage situation out of the bullpen. No chance. And they like their bullpen. Now that Romano and Swanson are back, they've got a lot of depth back there.
Yeah. Man, oh, man, that's been a drop.
AAA Manoah, single, double, home run in the first inning. Yikes. Not good. No. Not the best.
Nope, Louis Domingue.
Yeah, Louis Domingue.
Not the best.
All right, best bets. Where is Louis these days?
I think he played in Wilkes-Barre. Like,
was Louis down there? Can you get
no, it wasn't at the Rangers farm team, I believe.
Not the best.
I saw him, I swear, on
Louis
Hockey DB.
Domingue. Not the best.
Yeah, he's the Rangers' third goalie.
Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Spicy pork.
Yeah, because he was with Pittsburgh, wasn't he? That must have been 2 years ago.
He was with Pittsburgh and came in for an injury in the second overtime. I think it was Jari had cramps or something, and he came in. He's like spicy. What was it? Spicy
pork and broccoli.
Yeah,
because they were at MSG, and some guy ran down to Chinatown or something to pick up like Louis' favorite
and he's like,
dish.
Not the best.
Not the best.
I would love to hear the whole interview because the interview is actually brilliant.
Emily Kaplan.
He did a walk-off with Emily. Did we have her on? I feel like we had her on.
I think we did have Emily and just
talk about that interview.
We did because he went in. Jari cramped up or something, and Louis went in and then stood on his head
and played very well.
Played great. And then Emily was like, "What were you thinking?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not going to lie. I just had dinner." And she's like, "What'd you have?" He goes, "Spicy pork and broccoli."
Not the best.
Not the best. Yeah, that would have been 2 years ago because that was Pitt, and Pitt hasn't been in the playoffs in 2 years.
Wow.
Time flies, man.
Yeah.
Melanin Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. This playoffs, we need to cheer like we've never cheered before with the fans we've always cheered against. The Cup needs to come home, and you need to catch all the action at your local BP Sports Bar. Come back with our best bets, looking ahead to some playoff rounds we like, some action we like, including Game 1 tomorrow night, Leafs Bruins. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Make your picks and assemble a same-game parlay in seconds on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. We listed our series winners in the last hour, but I'm looking at the Oilers in L.A., and I know I've been bullish, but I like the Oilers, and you got to pay some juice here, minus 192 to win the series, but I like that. I will take the Oilers to beat the Kings, and I'd sprinkle on them to win in 5 at plus 410 or 6 at plus 420. I think LA's going to win a game, maybe 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going 7. I think the Oilers win in 5 or 6.
Wow.
And that's so I'm vibing towards Edmonton. I like that. I didn't love if Vegas was going to get them. I think they would have beat Vegas. I said that prior to what happened last night. I think Edmonton was going to beat Vegas, but I think they match up better against LA.
It's interesting. Talking to people in Edmonton today, I think a lot of them wanted Vegas because it's like, let's go right at it.
Yeah.
Like
but now you won't see them until the conference final, if at all.
If both get through, right? Like, but it was like if that's a team that beats you, you got to try and climb that hill. Might as well do it right off the gate. Now, if they beat LA, people will be like, well, we expected you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the message. I was like, are you happy about that? And they're like, no. Yes, but not really, because eventually you're still going to have to beat, these cup contending top tier teams, and respectfully not looking past LA. So if you beat LA, they're like, yeah, you've done that already the last 2 years. Show us something new.
Right.
That's kind of what the thought process was.
I can understand that. Today's best bets are powered by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today. Find thousands of ways to play. Please play responsibly. 18 plus and physically located in Ontario. Going into tomorrow night, Game 1, Leafs Bruins. Who plays in net for the Bruins is the storyline. I think it's going to be Allmark, but we don't know that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Swayman was 3-0 against.
He played great against the Leafs.
But I think it's Allmark, but I wouldn't be shocked about anything. That's why I'm struggling with you're digging up analytics, you're digging up stuff, but ultimately they have a plan in place. We'll see what it is, and we'll see if it works from both sides.
Yeah, but this is it's a real fork in the road, I think, for this Maple Leaf era, where Matthews is here and he's locked in, and Willie's here and he's locked in. Everything else, I think, is on the table, from the president to the coach, maybe Morgan Riley, who's been here forever, maybe Mitch Marner. Tavares is likely here next year. And I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse. I'm just trying to set up what I think is at stake here. And I think for them to knock down the Bruins would be very, very substantial for how the fan base feels about them. One thing, you got past Tampa last year, then we know what happened in the second round. But if you can get past the Bruins here, that's going to make a lot of people very happy in this
monumental.
It would just because of their history. Like it's just different than what the history was with Florida, what it was even with Tampa.
Right.
This is your chance, and Bergeron's not there, Krejci's not there, Chara's not there, Tim Thomas, Tuukka Rask. Like the demons of 13, even 18, 19, not there anymore.
Different teams.
Yeah, different teams. Chara was still in Boston in 18 and 19.
Yeah.
Not there anymore. So, different story. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out all week. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in. TV, radio, podcast, web. We appreciate that. Game 1, Leafs Bruins tomorrow night right here on TSN Radio. We can't wait. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
4 p.m.
We'll chat then.